Hello friends, fellow lymphomies, and everyone in between. My name is Nick, and I want to tell you the story about how I got cancer, specifically non-Hodgkins lymphoma at the age of 24. My ER doctor told me that if I had waited another month, I would be as good as dead. So I'm obviously very thankful that I got the help when I did, and I'm here to tell this story and help other people. And if this video could help at least one person, then this is all worth it. So I was feeling crappy for about a year, and I attributed this to my very shitty job. I was working 80, 90, sometimes 100 hours a week, depending on the circumstances. So I attributed my feeling shitty to my shitty job. I was making very decent money. I was able to afford my own place at the age of 21, which is unheard of where I live. It's very expensive to live here. I won't say where. So obviously I put up with this job for the benefits. And at the time I just got promoted, so I was not allowed to work anything less than 55 hours a week. So my first symptom was a very sharp pain in my shoulder blade. It was throbbing, horrendous pain that wouldn't just happen randomly. This was the kind of pain that you needed to hurt yourself to feel. I remember driving to Walgreens for Tylenol thinking, oh my god, and I was kind of crying. Have this type of pain? It was just very strange. Like, I'd never experienced something like this in my life. And for some people that would be enough to go to the doctor, right? Not for me. I dealt with this pain for weeks and just downing Tylenol like no one's business. So after a few weeks, this weird pain went away and it kind of migrated down to my right hip. I just remember being very weirded out, just thinking like, what is going on? Then it hit me. My Lyme's disease was flaring up. When I was a kid, I had contracted Lyme's disease. Everyone has it where I'm from. I live in an area where it is very prevalent. It just hit me. It was just my Lyme's disease flaring up. So I put myself on a Z-Pack and called it a day. A month later, I wasn't getting any better. I was overheated easily. I was tired all the time. And then my abdomen started to swell. I kind of was looking a little pregnant, but this wasn't even a thought in my mind because I had not done anything to make myself pregnant in years. And it was kind of weird, like it was a rock solid type of swelling and one side was kind of higher than the other. Not too long after that, I woke up one day and I couldn't walk. I know that sounds very weird, but it literally happened like that. I woke up, I could not put pressure on my right leg, and I was kind of hopping around. It was just super weird. I remember being at my job that day and asking for coverage because I was hopping around. I was very weirded out and scared. My boss was pretty pissed at me, but like, man, I don't know what to tell you. I can't walk. So, yeah. The next day or so, I decided to go to the ER because this isn't right. Like, this pain is getting worse, my abdomen is swelling, and the antibiotics didn't really do shit for me. So I went to the emergency room. I told the doctor there I wanted to be tested for Lyme's. He examined my leg and hip, and he told me that it could be rheumatoid arthritis, which was weird because I didn't think you could just wake up one day with arthritis. I thought that was something that develops over time. And he did test me for Lyme's and the test came back positive, which pretty much solidified my worry that it was just my Lyme's flaring up. So what I did was put myself on a stronger antibiotic. Oh, the ER doc actually also told me that the lump in my stomach could be me being backed up, which also made sense because that was actually one of the symptoms. And I just thought in my mind everything was explained. So the months went by and I wasn't getting any better. I was working 80 hours a week at my job, which made me worse. My boss was really angry and disappointed at me because my hours would be less and less, but I couldn't help it. I was sweaty, I always had fevers, night sweats. So I basically told my boss that I had to step down a position. Nobody in the company was really happy with me at that point. But you know, gotta do what you gotta do. They actually replaced me with somebody that I had to pick up the slack for. He wasn't very good at his job, so I ended up just doing the same thing anyway. It really didn't do any favors for my health stepping down. One day I had to work in this new store for the grand opening, and I just remember limping around the entire day. My franchisee was also there, and he said, "Nick, you're still limping? That's a long time to be limping." And you know, I don't blame him for thinking that. Nobody really knew except for me how much I was suffering. At this point, my bones felt like acid dissolving them. And getting in and out of my car was torture, walking was torture. It was just not a good time. So about a month goes by, I get down to 50 hours a week. My coworkers start calling me Limp Bizkit, which I thought was effing hilarious because I was limping around and I was still working 50 hours a week. I actually named my blog Limp Bizkit, and that's the actual name of my Light the Night team also. Team Limp Bizkit. But yeah, getting in and out of my car felt like acid eating my bones, like I said before. It was not a good feeling. So the lump in my abdomen was actually getting bigger, and this freaked me out. Why is this lump getting bigger? I actually thought in the back of my mind, this is cancer. There's something growing inside me, and it ain't no baby. And so I finally decide to go to my primary care doctor. When I got there, she walks in the room and she goes, "Oh my God, you're pregnant!" And at this point, I'm crying because nobody's listening to me. I have this lump in my stomach, which is probably cancer. Nobody's helping me. I had this ER doctor telling me I had arthritis. The antibiotics weren't working. And I knew this pregnancy test was gonna be negative, that she was shoving into my hand at this point. But I humor her, I take the test, it's negative, and at this point she's kind of looking a little worried. She feels my stomach, and I caught her face, and her face was like... And I caught that. I caught her face, and at this point I'm like, oh my God, this is something serious. But she kind of switches attitude in a split second. She says, "Well, you gotta get your insurance in line, and maybe like if you're still having this problem, we can order a CAT scan." And it's true, I did not have insurance at the time. That was my bad. I couldn't afford it when I stepped down, and that was just the reality of the situation. And it's just not something you think about when you're 23, 24, like, oh, I need health insurance, you know? So I had dropped it when I was still kind of okay. My point is, she didn't like rush getting the scan, but that look on her face was like kind of burnt into my mind. Oh man, this is something serious. So another month goes by, I take a vacation with my friends, and I'm tired, I have chest pains, I can barely get up, I have to take little breaks when I'm walking. It just wasn't a good time. I thought I'd feel better going down to Florida, but it just didn't. And at this point, a little lymph node popped up on my chest, and 2 more popped up in between my leg and torso area. And also, obviously that was something worrisome. I'm like, are these little tumors? What are they? Are they lymph nodes? They were in fact lymph nodes. So after my vacation with my friends, I got home and I was fed up with feeling like death. I was out of breath, I was in pain, just like my abdomen kept getting bigger. I didn't even think that was possible. I didn't eat much. My appetite was non-existent, which was weird for me. I live on cheesesteaks and burgers, okay? Like, it was just weird. And I could not work my regular hours anymore. I remember one day I was 4 hours late to work, and that's just not me, but I didn't care. I couldn't get out of bed, and I just felt like death. Okay, we'll talk about the final symptom after I charge this shit. The final symptom I had was both my legs swelled like balloons, and my feet. I couldn't wear shoes anymore. I couldn't wear my pants. Like, it was bad. And at this point, I knew I was dealing with something dire. And so I made an appointment with my an infectious disease doctor, and to this day, I think of this guy as my guardian angel. I seriously think that I would have kept on suffering and kept on suffering until it was too late, and I finally succumbed to all my symptoms and this disease that was wreaking havoc on my body. He took one look at me and said, "You do not have Lyme's. You have a tumor. You need to go across the street to the ER right now. I don't even want your money. I just need you to get over there right now. And I need you to promise me that you will go there right now. And I'll make sure that the infectious disease doctor on staff admits you." And that's when it hit me, like, okay, I'm about to get my cancer diagnosis. Bring it on. At this point, I just want to know what is plaguing my body. So to the hospital I went right after that appointment. I got ultrasounds, CT scans, an MRI, a bone scan, everything under the sun except a PET scan. A couple hours later, I was put into a room, and this infectious disease doctor told me that we found disease in your liver, your lung, your kidney, your spleen, and whatever this is completely destroyed your hip joint. And she told me it was definitely some form of cancer. Yeah, she said in her experience that this is not something that is benign. Like, I had tumors everywhere. I was in debilitating pain, and it was obvious my tumor looked like a pregnant belly. She told me because of the marker test that they did when I was admitted that it was more than likely ovarian cancer, which scared the crap out of me. Because advanced ovarian cancer is never good. Thankfully, one of my best friends is a genetic counselor, and she told me that this marker test don't mean shit. And the ER doc even told me, you can't be surprised, it's cancer. Yeah, I wasn't really surprised. I was just relieved that I was finally in the hospital. Someone was actually listening to me and not shoving pregnancy tests in my hand. She also told me that she never saw cancer so widespread, and that it was bad, that I was dealing with something sinister, and to prepare for the fight of my life. She said, "We'll put Xanax in your medication list until we get a diagnosis." I called my mom, I called my best friend, whose mother unfortunately passed away from ovarian cancer. All I thought about, I didn't think about myself. All I thought about was my mom. She had gone through a really hard year, and coincidentally, this was her birthday that I got admitted to the hospital, so all I cared about was her. I didn't want her to lose me, so at that moment, I decided that I would do whatever it takes to defeat this thing, even if it is a stage 4. I just adopted a kill or be killed mentality. So a few days later, they transferred me to oncology because even though I didn't have a diagnosis yet, they knew it was cancer, so they transferred me to from infectious disease to oncology. They also performed a biopsy on my lymph node that was in my chest, and they told me I was also going to wake up with a power port. I had no idea what that would entail. I didn't know what a power port was. So I just said, all right, like, do what you need to do. So I woke up in pain. Like, this thing was the most painful thing I think I've ever experienced. It took a week to get the biopsy results back. And this really wasn't worrisome. They said the longer it takes to get a biopsy result back, the better it is. But once I got them, I met my oncologist, and they were the nicest people I could have ever imagined. They were smiling, so that made me feel really good. They had told me that I won the wheel of misfortune, that the exact name of my cancer was double hit lymphoma, which is a form of non-Hodgkins lymphoma, and it is a rare subtype of diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, which is the most common type of lymphoma. In most cancers, there's one gene mutation, and I had 2. They told me it was a really good thing because this aggressive cancer responds really well to aggressive treatment, and there was a really good chance that in 5 years I could be completely cured of this thing, even though I was stage 4 and a month away from dying. I also had no idea what lymphoma even was. I heard of Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and everyone pretty much knows what leukemia is, but lymphoma, not so much. And I didn't even know there was a curable type of cancer. I thought that was an oxymoron, like, curable cancer. I couldn't wrap my head around that. But I was elated, I was relieved, I finally had the name of the disease that was wreaking havoc on my body. And I was in the right place, and these people would take care of me and hopefully cure me. They told me I was in for a very intense chemo regimen, radiation, and eventually a stem cell transplant, which I'll make separate videos for if anyone's interested. And they also told me that I would probably do my chemo and radiation at the same time. Most people do like chemo, then radiation, or radiation, then chemo. My situation was so dire that I had to do them at the same time. Like, I was laying on the radiation table and my black bag of poison was hanging right next to me. It was surreal. But yeah, my attitude was, let's do this. I'm ready to be cured and get on with my life. And yeah, that's my diagnosis story. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope that at least I could help one person, and if I do, it's so worth it. I should have gone to the doctor sooner, but obviously I can't change the past. We live and learn. If you're experiencing anything weird, please go to the doctor. Like, it's not worth it to like wait and suffer, because I could have been diagnosed in the early stages instead of, you know, stage 4, and I really did serious damage to my body. Yeah, so that's it. And I will end this video by saying na zdrovia, which means to your health. It's a little saying my family likes to say during holidays, before dinner, and I think it's fitting for this channel I'd like to make about cancer. So thank you very much for listening.